Facebook too. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to be talking about the shifting housing market. There's been some news articles that have come out, and I do have a special guest this week. You guys might remember him. His name is Will Friedner, and he has been on this show before. And we're going to be talking about the Montana market. So if you're interested in that, you're going to be enjoying our conversation today. But before we introduce Will, there's a special thing I want to ask of you. I never ask anything of my subscribers, but if you're coming onto today, I would ask if you were thinking about super chatting, if you would consider clicking the link that I have in the pinned comment and donating to my friend Owen Video. He is on YouTube. I know you guys don't know who he is. He's not a real estate agent, but he does help out YouTubers. And he's a good friend of mine, and he has stage 4 cancer. And he's trying these alternative medicines that are not covered by insurance. So if you were thinking or considering like doing a super chat today, instead of super chatting me, please go over to the link that is pinned at the top and donate to Owen Video and his cancer treatments. We have been doing this. Well, I haven't really, but I've helped with some of the stuff that they've been doing to raise money for this. And there's been several YouTubers that have been doing live streams, and they have raised over 78,000. I think it's at 79,000 now if we refresh the screen. But if we can add a little bit to that, that would be fantastic. And whoever makes the highest donation today will win will get a Your Real Estate Whisperer cup. So just let me know that in the chat that you did donate. And if you're the highest one to get do a donation, I will give you a Your Real Estate Whisperer cup. So I would appreciate that, because he is a great friend of mine, super nice guy, and anything that we can help with his cancer treatments, that would be fantastic. But, you're here to hear about real estate. So let's get back into some real estate. My friend, again, Will Friedner. I'm the worst with last names. He is from Montana. He has been in real estate for years, and he is going to be helping us sort through all of this shifting real estate headline nonsense that we've been seeing. I sent Will this morning some of these articles, and Eddie's going to be pulling them up in just a second. And they're talking about, the headline reads, the real estate market is shifting. But is it really shifting, Will?
Yeah, I got a kick of that out of that article, because it talks about how it's shifting, but then down at the bottom it says that things are basically the same. So you gotta love the power of headlines.
Yeah, well, at the beginning it says, but the tide is turning. It says, the best way to describe the pace of the 2020 housing market, the bidding wars got so intense that home price growth set an all-time record, but the tide is turning. The rush of buyers into the housing market during the pandemic absolutely crushed housing inventory. The number of homes on the market, with that figure falling to 12 consecutive months, but April housing inventory was down a staggering 53% from a year earlier. However, trajectory flipped. For 2 straight months, the number of homes for sale has gone up. Home listings on realtor.com rose 3% in May. Then again, 9% in June. That's not all. We learned last week that the new sales are falling. Their pace in June was the slowest since the onset of the pandemic. Every indication is that this housing market is shifting a bit in the buyer's favor. So what do you think, Mr. Will?
Well, in my area, the key word would be a bit.
Yeah, like a minor bit.
I think they found a couple houses that didn't sell in 10 days, and they wrote an article about the tide is turning. So yeah, here where I'm at in Montana, we're still everyone has decided to move up here, move to the mountains. And like I tell everybody, they're not building any more mountain towns. So everybody wants to come up here. And so in our general area, it's still pretty tough to get something. I just had a guy call earlier that his job is transferring him here, and he's selling a 10-acre place over in Washington with a shop and big house. And, I think he said he's selling it for 400 grand, and he wants the same thing over here. And I had to break the news to him that does not exist anymore. So yeah, in this area, it's still crazy.
Thank you, Jeff Patriot, for the $3 super chat. I appreciate you. So I will tell you what's happening here in Louisiana. There was a brief window of time for like a good month that we weren't getting like 30 offers on a house. We were getting 10. But this week, I know it was like somebody who said, there's more houses on the market. If you were in a price range from like, let's just say, the 200 to 400,000, it's right back where it was 2 months prior. You're still getting you're fighting 30 offers. I mean, we can't find any listings. I've had to call for sale by owners. The for sale by owners are unwilling to work with buyers agents. I mean, there's a lot of frustrated home buyers still to this day in my area. Now, I know a lot of people that I've spoken to throughout the country have had home buyers that are just like, you know what, I'm going to wait it out because I'm going to see if the housing market crashes. Do you believe that we're going to be seeing a housing crash anytime soon? Because this article says we're not seeing a crash anytime soon. What do you think?
Well, kind of when I was on your show last time, we discussed the same thing. And I, at the time, said, no, again, I'm doing it from my area
Perspective.
And here I don't foresee that happening. And I don't really even see that happening around the rest of the country, just because I think it will slow down from where it is right now. But I don't, I was in the business back in 2008 during the crash when it really was a crash. And I don't see that happening here. There's not going to be the foreclosures because, even if you're behind on your payment, I would find it hard to believe that you're not going to get what you owe on the house. So I don't see a crash. I see a slight slowdown.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure you have the same problem we do, is a lack of inventory. So let's just say a bunch of people that haven't been paying their mortgage decided to put their house up up on the market, and they've owned their house for 10 years. They already have equity in it, so if they're not going to foreclose on. Oh, Bianca's Piazza World West says $10 super chat, super sticker. Thank you so much. If you guys are thinking about super chatting or doing a super sticker or anything like that, at the top of the chat, there is a link to Owen Video's donations for his cancer treatments. I would love if you guys could donate there. That would be fantastic, because I'm trying to dedicate just to give all that money to Owen in his cancer treatment. So I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. When we talked about the cooling off of the housing market, and I've you and I have discussed this many times, it's a cooling off, meaning there isn't going to be as many buyers that are clamoring to buy the house at one time. But we're still going to be having home prices stay steady, because the type of buyers that we've seen in the past year and a half are not the same kind of buyers that we were seeing buying houses in the last housing crash that was held up by kooky loans that people could have stated income and buy a house. This housing market is held up by people that have incredible credit history. They have to go through a whole scope of getting approval for those loans. And a lot of them have a lot of cash. Like, I've never seen as much cash going into the housing market as I've seen in the last year and a half. Is that the same in where you live in Montana? Or is it a lot of cash buyers, heavy cash buyers?
Yeah, for sure. We're getting a lot of people coming up from the big city, and we're still a deal compared to the Aspens and the Vales. And so they come up here and think, God, this house would be $5 million in Vale. And so they pay cash for it. And it's unfortunate for the locals that are getting priced out of everything. But I mean, I don't, again, we discussed this last time. I'm not sure what the answer is to that. But yes, we are seeing a lot of cash buyers, and you touched on it earlier, we are seeing a bit of and I don't want to say slowdown because we're not there yet, but early in the, late spring, early summer, people were just throwing garbage on the market and they'd get 10 offers on it. And that has kind of changed. We're seeing more houses that there's a little bit of pushback now from the buyers. They're not just throwing money at at anything. So that's a good
garbage.
sign. Yeah, that's a good sign.
We have I'd say a good 5, 6 houses in our area that are like, they're pieces of garbage. They're termite traps. You walk up and you're like, oh, forget that. And he wants me to read this. An analysis of the country's records by real estate brokers and buyer Redfin Corporation found that 30% of U.S. home purchasers in the first 4 months of this year were all cash, up to 25.3% last year. The share of cash buyers in the largest since 2014, the company said. Paying upfront as opposed to obtaining financing is often seen as a way of getting a leg up on other potential buyers. Just like we were saying. And that's why I don't see a big giant market crash. I just can't see how it can maintain itself. There's some houses I am still perplexed on how they sold for as much as they did. And I'm concerned that in some areas and in some aspects, some people did overpay. But if they overpaid and it maintains that price, then I guess they didn't overpay. A lot of people want to blame the real estate brokers for the cost of the homes, but we don't. We only set the price. The market dictates who's willing to pay for it. So you can't really blame the real estate brokers for that, because if buyers thinks it's too much and the appraisers say it's too much, no one's going to pay for it that way. Eddie Royale says, question, what is this I hear about a 40-year mortgage in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is still increasing pre-approval 50,000 to 100K in our area, no houses in the 200 to 350 area. Well, I know it's difficult to find it here. I've heard this before. I don't know if you've heard this about the 30 to, I've heard 40-year loans and 50-year loans. But if you actually break it down, the chart where it shows you what you pay in interest, you are saving nothing. I mean, like even your own payment, I think it comes down maybe $100, $150. And if you're willing to add another 10 years to your loan to save $150 on your mortgage payment, then you probably should reconsider buying a house. What do you say? Well,
yeah, I agree. And, the other thing that people need to think about too is, like the people you were talking about a minute ago that may have overpaid. If they're looking to flip it in 2 years, yeah, maybe they did overpay. But if they're going to be there for 7 or 8 years and it doesn't hold whatever they paid or go up, then we're all in a lot of trouble. So I wouldn't be too concerned about, yes, this is the top of the market, but if you're going to stay in your house for a while, then, you can't look at it that way. I don't think.
Some people though just want to win. They just want to win. So they'll do stupid stuff to win the house. So I've seen a couple deals that I'm like, that was just dumb. But they wanted to win. Bianca's Piazza West says she's became a new channel member. Thank you so much. Welcome to the channel. Do we have any other questions that you want to throw up there really quick? Here we go. Question. S has a question. Do you think the housing unaffordability can be solved by Section 8 and an extension of low-income housing vouchers? Given wage gaps between the rich and poor, eviction moratoriums cannot go on forever. Go ahead and give your opinion, and I'll give you mine, Will.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if that will solve it. Sure, that will definitely help a lot of people. But I don't, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say something that, go ahead.
So Section 8 housing vouchers are something that we see here in Louisiana all the time, but not every area is regulated and watched over in every state like it is here in Louisiana. Those homes have to be maintained and regularly looked at by Section 8 to make sure that, they're proper for people to live in. There's been lots of issues. You can look them up about Section 8 housing throughout the United States. I think the real answer for housing unaffordability is to make housing for people that are making less than X amount of dollars to be able to buy a smaller type of house like they did after World War II, offering specific types of loans. I also think that they need to make government-backed loans for houses that are under $65,000, which would include very small homes. And the government has tons of land that they're not using for anything, and they can give that to developers to develop and make smaller homes for small families that have low income. And that is the best way to build generational wealth, and that's what baby boomers did. So they should offer that. Once again, it's not hard. The blueprint's there. That's the best way to solve the housing unaffordability. What the big investors and big companies want to do is make more affordable rental units, because they're like, these people don't really want to own a house. The heck they don't. That's just total hogwash, and it will keep people in a wheel, like a hamster wheel of constantly renting, and then it's just generational renting, and that's not what we want. We want everybody to be able to gain generational wealth, and one of the best ways to do that is through real estate.
No, I agree with that. You're right. We don't have a lot of the Section 8 up here. So I've in my 15 years in the business, I've never dealt with it once. But I agree with you. And that's where in our area, the cities aren't, everyone's scrambling right now because nobody, the guy that works down at the restaurant washing dishes or whatever, there's no way they can afford to live here right now. And, I know that every resort area has the same issue, but it's really bad here. In fact, a lot of our restaurants and businesses are closing a couple days a week in the height of the summer because they don't have staff. And, because it doesn't pay right now to live 50 miles away and drive 50 miles to work a $10 an hour job. And therein lies the issue in our area.
That happened in California too, and they allowed for people to put alternative housing dwellings, like the small tiny homes in their driveway. So people that worked lower income jobs could rent those little tiny houses in their driveway. It's a kind of a process though. They hadn't made it really easy. I think they're going to streamline that more throughout the years. Eddie had a question that popped up while you were talking. Here we go. Noain says, Kristina, we have one of the hottest markets in the United States, but nobody's talking about Utah. Utah County, any chance to make any video about our market as well? Thank you in advance. I can have, I have a friend that is a real estate agent out in Utah. I can ask him if he would come on here and talk to us. His name is Joe Eves. You might recognize that last name. Eves is Daryl's brother, and he's a good friend of mine. And he talks about the Utah market quite a bit. I was actually out there, and I saw they're building neighborhoods one right after the other. And I was like, but this was in southern Utah. And I was like, how do they get all the water? Like, it looks so dry there. I'm like, where does the water come from in Utah? I really don't know. I'm not trying to be silly or stupid. I really don't know, because there's nothing but desert there. So where are they getting the water? And then that like always worries like the back of my head. If I was to live here, what if there was no water? Where would you get it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can ask Joe if he'll come on here. Question from Lori Shepard. We just got our 5th offer rejected. All were 10 to 40K over asking in Phoenix. At some point, could or would our realtor choose to stop working with us? I feel bad every time for us and for her. I can't see why she would. What would you say?
Well, she's crazy if she does. I mean,
that's just the market right now.
Yeah, I'm sure, Lori, that you're not the only one that's happened to that she's worked with. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. There's only so much you can do in the price range, whatever that is that you're in, and she's trying her best. And I would be shocked if she doesn't want to work with you, because it's not your fault that the offers aren't being accepted.
And let's be honest, she's the real estate agent's writing the offer. Now, if the real estate agent is writing the offer and she says you're not going to win it with this amount of money, you're going to have to offer 100,000, and every single time you keep getting rejected because you're not taking her advice, maybe she could possibly get frustrated with that. But I can honestly say, in my 14 years of a career, I've never like fired a client for something like this. Like I mean, the only time I've ever, like, if I get verbally harassed or called names or anything like that, that's the only time I've ever been like, you know what, this isn't really working out. Let me recommend you another real estate agent. But no, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast right now. This girl I'm showing her houses to now, we've had numerous offers rejected, and the poor thing, as soon as she sees the house, we're sitting there trying to type the offers as quickly as possible and send them out, and she's always panic stricken. I'm like, you may not win it. And then sure enough, she doesn't win it. But she's a first time home buyer. She doesn't have an extra $20,000 in her pocket. So question, do I need a realtor for owner financing land when the land is owned by land selling company? I would get a real estate attorney. What is your opinion?
Or an agent, somebody that is representing you, because those guys are representing themselves and no one else. So I'm not saying they're going to lie to you, but they're in it for themselves. They're not, yes, they want your money. They want you to buy it, but I would have somebody, watching your back and making sure that, there's no easements or something weird going on with that land. So that's my advice.
Jakisa, I want to know, did you, was this a bidding type thing? And did you have to give a deposit before they sent over paperwork? I had a phone call from somebody that was using a website because they found the piece of land on the website, and you had to actually send in the deposit to hold the piece of property so they could remove it from the market. And then they would send you the paperwork, and all of the financing was in with the company that was selling you the piece of land in the first place. And I'm like, wait, well, what? And then you made your payments to the company on the website itself. Your payments were made to this specific land company. And that just said to me, red flag, giant red flag. I'm like, no, you need a title search of this. Like, you need to call a title company and see if they actually own that piece of land. And they called me back and they were like, well, it's under another company name. And I'm like, that does not sound right at all. So there's some red flags there. I would get some representation from a real estate agent. So always do your due diligence on any piece of land you're buying from, especially if you're buying it from the internet, because they can put stuff that isn't true on the internet. Did you know that?
Really? That is a news flash. There's the headline of today.
Carly says, can a self-employed person with a 4% mortgage get refied now? Income going up, but was low in 2020 due to COVID. That's a lender question. He's got to check your it isn't just your income. He's got to check your debt to income ratio. He's got to check all sorts of stuff. So that would be a lender question. I can't see why you couldn't by just reading that one sentence, but he or she would have to do a little bit more digging to see if you'd be able to refi right now. It would be a great idea, though. It'd be a great idea. The interest rates are so low.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Okay, question. Kat asks, rural Idaho can't get an aggressive realtor to get in a deal on a home. Reminds me of, this is California suggestion. This isn't California. Question, rural Idaho can't get an aggressive realtor to deal on a home. Reminds me of, this isn't California suggestion. Oh, I see what they're saying. So they're saying that they want a real estate agent that is very aggressive, because the one they're dealing with was like, well, we can't do it like that. This isn't California. I have a suggestion, but you go ahead and give your suggestion.
Well, I mean, you just got to interview people and and find somebody that you like and is willing to do, go all in for you. It sounds like, you've had some bad luck, and if it's anything like here, there's plenty of agents around, so I'm sure you can find someone.
And if you can't find somebody, please reach out to me on my email. You can email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com, and I will find you an aggressive go-getter of a real estate agent. But make sure you specify what town you want to live in, because that makes a big difference. Because I can give you an agent in Idaho, but that may not be the town you're in, and they don't cover the whole entire state. St. George, Utah is the highest water usage in the United States, and that's where my friend Joe Eves is from. And I want to know where are they getting the water from? I mean,
Well,
I don't. Where do they get
I
from?
used to, back in my former life, I was in the golf business and I ran golf courses, and I was down in Southern California in the desert. And we had, in that desert, it was the Palm Springs area, we had the largest aquifer in all of California, ironically enough, in the middle of the desert. So we had tons of water. And when we would use it, 40% of the water that we used to water the golf course would go back down into the aquifer. But
Gotcha.
the one thing they did there, and I don't know if St. George is part of this. I'm trying to, I don't think it is, but we had an actual canal that came all the way from the Colorado River over to help replenish our aquifer. But even now, I've been reading because of the Lake Mead and the drought, and the water prices are going through the roof in those areas just because they're running out.
There's a reason why they put water as a commodity on the stock market.
For sure. Yeah, and all those. Well, look at Vegas. Look at all those towns in the desert. Palm Springs, where I was, all those. You're in the middle of a desert. Water is pretty key.
Well, speaking of that, Eddie, pull up that article about your area, like what's going on with drought and wildfires in Montana. Eddie, can you pull that up for me? I think he was trying to pull up some other, he was pulling up something else, but I'm going to show a picture while he's doing that. Let's see here. Look at this wildfire. I know you're going to see us on the other side here, but look, a little wildfire here. And then look, is this like the whole area that's on the
pretty much the whole state? Yep, there's fires everywhere. Luckily, just in the last 24 hours, we got a rainstorm that's come in, and we're getting some much needed rain. I don't think it's going to put anything out, but it'll definitely slow them down and give the firefighters a chance to get a hold of some of these fires. It's been pretty bad this year.
Yeah, I didn't know if the wildfires would affect your housing market. Does it affect your housing market when you have these fires like this, or do people still buy and they don't care?
No, this, unfortunately, this is almost every summer there's some fires. We have so much wilderness around here, and the weird thing that happens here in the Northwest or in Montana where I'm at is, we'll right around 4th of July, it quits raining every year. It just turns into the desert up here, and the weather's beautiful. But then, we don't get any rain, and then we'll get these, they call them dry thunderstorms that have lightning and thunder, but no rain. And so they'll blow through, and lightning will strike all over in the mountains and the wilderness and start up 50 fires. And then, then you're stuck with trying to put all those out in the middle of the wilderness. This one that this article is about probably 30 miles south of where I'm sitting right now. And it had started about a week ago. I think it was last Saturday. This one that they think was man-made. There's a bunch of cherry orchards down along the lake right there. And I don't know how it started. They're saying it was man-made because there was no lightning at the time, and they haven't determined yet. But anyway, it burned for a day or so, and then the next day, the winds picked up and blew it down the mountain towards the lake, and it actually burned 10 or 12 homes that were right along the lake, and it burned all the way down to the edge of the water. So, yeah, that was a bad one. The road is still closed. You can't drive down that highway right now.
So in Louisiana, we have flooding all the time, and we have, of course, flood insurance. Is there extra insurance that people would need in your area when they're purchasing a house because of these type of fires that happen all the time? Or is it just regular fire insurance and that's it?
Yeah, depending on where you are, I've had some people have a hard time getting insurance when they're way out. And a lot of people will, they call it park out their property, and that will help with your insurance rates if you can clean it out and it's, less of a risk for a wildfire. So it just depends where you are. And the price of the insurance will, determine or be determined by where exactly you are and how close you are to a fire department, how close you are to,
A fire hydrant too.
exactly.
Yeah, that was just people made fun of me because I did a video about buying homes for living off the grid. But one of the things is like, how far are you from a fire hydrant? And somebody says, well, if you're living off the grid, you don't need a fire hydrant. I'm like, some people's version of living off the grid is like they don't want electricity and they want a well, but they don't want their house to catch on fire either. So they want to have a local fire department to be able to hook up and be able to put out the fire near their house. You may not consider that off the grid, but these people do. So everybody's version is different. Okay, question. Deanna says, can I finance on land only in Indiana? I was approved for 250,000, but on a house, not only not land. That's a different loan approval. You're going to have to get a whole different loan approval for land than you would for a house. Now you can do something where you roll the land and the house into one package, which that would be a new construction loan. So, but yeah, that would be a different type of financing because you're not going to get 250,000 just on a piece of dirt.
Well, what I was going to say is on land, I'm not sure what they told her for a house as far as what she needed as a down payment, but on land, they require a lot more upfront.
I think it's like 30% down. Isn't it like 30%?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought, minimum 30% down. Eddie's going to throw us. All right. Question. If I'm selling to a corporation like Zillow, Redfin, et cetera, should you have a realtor look over the offer to ensure you're not getting ripped off? What's a normal to handle these circumstances? Go ahead, Will.
1,000,000%. I can guarantee you right now, and I've never, obviously no idea where your house is or what it is, but they're not giving you what you could get, on the open market.
So I'm going to tell you what happened to one of my clients. So she has a house, and if you did the comps for her neighborhood, her house would have been valued about $259,000, which she was pretty happy with. She wanted to see how much of these other companies were going to offer her, and Zillow offered her $268,000 and a 1% transaction fee. She's like, I'm in, I'm going to do this. And I told her, I said, see what happens. But I'm telling you right now, they're giving you a number based on a number they pull out of the sky. But once they come in there and they actually preview the house, they're going to adjust that number. And that's exactly what they did. They were telling her that she needed all these certain things to be done to the house in order for them to purchase it. They were deducted that amount. So now the offer was back down to $255,000. I'm like, you can do better on the open market. Forget what they're saying, So she ended up putting it up for sale. And of course, she got an offer right away. But she was pretty excited because she didn't want to have to go through that whole thing. She didn't want to negotiate anything. She didn't want people coming through her house. She just wanted to sell it and move on. But now she realizes, and it took a lot of time for them to like come back out and like survey her house and tell her how, like when they did their inspection of it, it wasn't like, they make it sound like it was really quick, but it took several days. So she was like, all those days I could have had on the market. And I said, yeah, you would have been under contract too. So
from what I've seen on those, it's the fine print that you need to be careful of.
Right.
Like you said, that's exactly, they'll say, oh yeah, I'll give you 260 or whatever, you probably think it's worth. But yeah, then 3 weeks later or more, we really meant 220 because you need a new roof, you need this, you need that. And the 1% thing, I'm surprised. I've heard that it's higher than what normal real estate agents charge for their transaction fee.
Well, it's 1%, and then it's, like, other fees on top of it. Like, it was there was 1%, and like you said, the fine print.
Yeah.
And if you don't wanna hire a real estate agent to look that over, you can always hire a, title or real estate attorney to look over that contract, because 'cause they'll even be able to read those fine print even better, because they throw some legalese in there that may not be privy to real estate agents. Betty asks, "Now, is there an increase in inventory with the insane bidding wars slowing down in California?" I don't know of anybody that says the bidding wars are slowing down in California. I had an agent on there last week, and he's like, "We're still doing crazy here." And I don't know. I don't see that there's an increase in inventory in California from the people that I've spoken to. Well, how about you, Will?
Well, again, I run into this here in Montana. California is a huge state,
Hmm.
and there's a million different, micro markets around California. So yeah, you could probably find somewhere in California that that's the case. But I think in general, I agree with you, Christina. I haven't heard that that's slowing down at all. I mean, for sure, there may be some rural towns up in Northern California somewhere that it is, but in the large parts of the state, I haven't heard of that at all.
I always think that California is a catalyst of what's going to happen in the future to other areas, because one of the things we did get a new channel member, Killian number one thing, you became a new channel member. Thank you for becoming a member. But one of the things that happened at the beginning of the pandemic that I had never heard before was that California home builders were saying that before closing, they were like, "Oh, I know that you offered 650 for the house, but before you close, it's now 680," and that was common practice. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what happens if the buyer doesn't have it?" They go ahead and use another, they pick another buyer to buy it. Like, that's crazy. I've never heard that. Only in California. And sure enough, like 3 months later, they're doing it all over the place. They're doing it in Texas. They're doing it in Louisiana. They're doing it everywhere. And then, like, if you don't have the money, who cares? There were so many stories that people had sold their house, waiting for their house to be built. The house is like in the framing stage, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know that you said it was going to be 650, but now it's 675." And by the time it gets to closing, it's 725, and they're not qualified to buy the house anymore, and they don't even care. The builders don't care. They just sell it to somebody else that can purchase it. Terrible way to do business. But
There again, it's all about reading the fine print when you sign a contract, because if they have the opportunity to change the price, they're gonna change the price.
and builders contracts are not meant for buyers to be able to. It doesn't protect the buyer in any way, shape, or form. And that's why it's important to have a real estate agent, even when you're working with a home builder. Question: is it legal for a buyer, say will waive the inspection request after inspection if you close in 10 days on a Thursday night when closing set by them was 32 days out, then cancel due to inspection? Is it legal for the buyer to say waive the inspection request after inspection if you close in 10 days on a Thursday night when its closing is set by them was out 32 days, then cancel due to inspection? That depends on your contract for your specific state. Like, we're an as is state, so usually all real estate is closed. Once it's closed, it's as is at the time of closing. But you have a 10-day inspection period, and during that inspection period, you can cancel for any reason. But that is going to be whatever your state's contract says. What do you say there, Will?
Yeah, I'm not totally understanding her question, but yeah, here in Montana, you can, you can cancel a deal because of the inspection for anything you find. But after that, you're in, if you kill the deal for whatever reason, that isn't something that's written into the contract, then you're in jeopardy of losing your earnest money.
Yeah. Yeah. And then here in Louisiana, they hold them, the title attorneys will hold that until it's you go through like a arbitration and decide who actually keeps it. Jakisa says, is a new channel member. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. And now that you're members, you get this like little icon at the bottom that shows that you're special. My channel members get that. Isn't that great? Thank you to all the new channel members that have joined today. I appreciate you. Question: are unsolicited calls to buy my house serious? I get them for my house and for my mom's. Yes, they are serious. They are serious. Go ahead. Yeah. So we get them all the time. And Eddie, my producer, who's also my husband, we have rental properties, right? So at my rental properties, we get this from this home investors company. It says, dear property owner, doesn't even say who it is. We understand that you are the owner of this property. If you're interested in selling and selling fast, our business is selling houses in multiple house packages. We rehab them and then resell them to investors. You get cash, you sell directly to us, you sell your home as is, and you close quickly. So most of these investors are cash buyers. They want to close in like 10 days. They don't care how you leave the house because they're going to flip it and either turn it into a rental or they're going to flip it and sell it to other investors. Do you have that in your area, Will?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. And again, they're trying to make money. They're not going to give you, they're looking for a deal themselves, and they're looking for the person that's desperate and doesn't want to deal with showings, or they need the money quick or whatever. But if these people really look at what they could get for the house, I guarantee it'll be more than when these investors are offering.
Sometimes though, it is in your best interest to just, if you're wanting off your hands, like I've seen it where people were like, a family member had passed away. The family member was a hoarder. They really wanted nothing to do with the house. They didn't want to have to clean it up. An investor said, we'll buy it as is with everything in there. And they were like, good. I don't want to have to deal with that nonsense. So they were happy to take that check, and whatever they ended up making as a profit afterwards, they could have cared less because it was off of their hands. So in some cases, yes, there's nothing wrong with going with these kind of companies. But if you have the regular standard, single family dwelling, and it just needs a little like love, just little touch-ups here and there, don't do this. Talk to a real estate agent and see what you really can get for your house, because you'll probably get a lot more than you would with a company like this.
For sure. Yep. And yeah, you're right. Obviously, for some people, they don't mind that they're maybe leaving some money on the table just so they don't have to deal with anything. And that's up to them. Mm-hmm. But, all these guys are offering less than what you could get on the open market.
Right. Question: if you hire a realtor and title company for owner financing, do you have to pay for them yourself since there is no more mortgage to pay them? Yeah, you have to pay closing costs.
Yeah,
you have to pay closing costs. Now, if you're buying a house, the realtor fees are paid by the seller, not by the owner. So, I mean, but not by the buyer. But I don't know why you would. I don't know. Let's call me. I want you to call me personally so we can have a discussion. My contact information is in the description, so we can talk about what you're doing with your owner financing property, because I don't want you getting in over your head. Sometimes those owner financing are not necessarily the best thing in the world, and I want to make sure that you're not getting hosed and they actually own the piece of property itself. We got another question we're going to throw up there, Eddie. I see some. I hope Eddie didn't fall into because I hope he didn't trip. No, here he goes. Would real estate market be fixed if Airbnb was banned? BlackRock is banned from buying residential real estate and foreign investment banned. Would it be fixed if Airbnb? That depends on the area. Like, in New Orleans, we can't have Airbnbs anymore. And they were building condos like crazy for Airbnbs, and the hotel industry lobbied no more Airbnbs throughout New Orleans. So all those condo communities just like shut down. But I don't think that's going to like fix the problem, because Airbnbs in our area for their vacation rentals and their condos, they're not single family dwellings. Now, BlackRock, on the other hand, I have my own deep hatred for companies like this. So what did you say, Will?
Well, it's interesting. We're having that same discussion in our little town right now about the Airbnb thing. And there's a group of people that wants them, reduced in our area. But
Mhm.
I agree with you. That does nothing. I mean, it there's already it's not like you can have, like my house, for example. I can't do it as an Airbnb because we're not zoned for it. And there's
Mhm.
very few places in this town that I'm in that that you can even have Airbnb. So I don't think that's going to solve anything. The other the other things, the question's gone now. I can't see, but yeah, I don't. There's so much that goes into real estate markets, and they're all so different, and they're all so local that I don't think there's a one fix, a one stop shop or a one fix for the real estate market.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things about BlackRock and Blackstone and why it came into, they finally got found out. They've been buying up single family properties throughout the United States and using them for rentals, and then that becomes a package for hedge funds. It's just one of the ways that they can offset how much inflation has gone up. So they dump as much cash as they can in real estate. That's what they've always done. They just kind of got caught. And it's been one of those things that, like, in those big metro areas where they know they can get the most return on investment, like Austin, Texas, and some of the areas that have increased exponentially, sure enough, they're the biggest part of those markets is ends up being these corporations. We don't have the foreign investor problem like they do in Canada, because apparently foreign investors right now look at the United States as like, oops, I don't know if that's the place to invest right now. But Canada's had that issue for a long time, and they've actually like made laws so that foreign investors couldn't buy real estate, because they were even buying it and leaving it empty and didn't care. They just wanted to have that for a future commodity, which is crazy to me. So I don't worry about them. I do worry about big corporations owning too much real estate. I do worry about that a lot.
Yeah.
Question: any idea if Montana market will be affordable for locals again? That's a you question all the way.
Well, come on, Kristina, what do you think?
I know
You know
nothing
what?
about
I
Montana.
don't. Again, I think it's going to slow down a little bit, but unfortunately, COVID did not help our market for locals. Everybody wants to get out of the big city now. There's numerous reasons for that. I don't want to get all political, but that's what we're seeing is everybody fleeing the cities and the lockdowns and on and on. So will it be affordable again? I think what's going to happen is these companies here are going to have to start, in order to have locals or to have people work, they're going to have to start raising what they're paying people to get them here. Like I said earlier, there's already places in town that are closed, and this is the height of our season right now, and there's restaurants that are closed in the middle of the week, and it's crazy, but they can't find people. So yeah, I think I don't know if affordable is going to be the right word, but I think it's going to work itself out over time. It always does. Right now, we're just not. Nobody was prepared for this. Nobody predicted this. Who knew that the world was going to turn upside down a year ago? I mean, nobody.
Mhm.
And we're just our little town that I'm with right now. They're just, I did a video, kind of following your lead, Kristina, last week on tiny homes in Montana. Well, they're throughout the state of Montana. The laws have not caught up with what we need, and it takes a while. And unfortunately, in Montana, this is crazy. We're one of, I think, 5 states where the legislature only meets once every 2 years, which one could argue that's a good thing that they're not making a whole bunch of new laws all the time. But on the other hand, when something like this happens, and they just met this spring, we're waiting 2 years again until anything gets done. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy deal right now. And
If
like
local businesses were smart in your area, they would buy a piece of land where people could like basically park a tiny home there, and they could rent the space out. So they would own the home, but the people that like own the businesses, they would get rent from those spaces, and then that way they would have their employees be able to be right down the road to their businesses. I mean, that
Yeah,
was smart.
that's a great idea, except it's not allowed.
I
You
know, that's what I'm
can't.
saying. But, like, you gotta allow, you don't have mixed use property that you could do something like that? There's no mixed use land in Montana at all, or in that
Well, I
area?
mean, I'm sure not in our area that they've zoned everything zoned, and tiny homes aren't a thing. And then you've got the hookups and the setbacks and a million things, and they are talking about it obviously now, having tiny homes as accessory dwelling units that they will allow, because in the past, then that's the thing is people that have a bigger lot may say, well, I'm going to put a house on here and then use it for an Airbnb. That's
Oh,
not helping the locals or the workers, but it's capitalism. Somebody, oh, you can put a little house out there, and they're like, great, I can make an extra $800 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever, and rent it out, weekly. So there's the dilemma we're in right now.
in California, you can't do that. Like, you have to rent it out for year-long leases. They specifically states you cannot turn your accessory dwelling that's on your property into an Airbnb, and
Yeah,
they'll catch you.
sure, and they will here too. I guess what the problem that we're running into is, how far do you go as far as telling people what they can do with their own property and what you can charge for rent? That's the thing. If you could rent it even, monthly to somebody from out of town, a 3-month lease for a whole bunch of money so they can live in Whitefish for the summer, you're not helping the worker that wants something that they can afford.
But if you are asking for a permit to have this type of dwelling on your property, you're already you're foregoing the fact that you're wanting to rent this out to a vacationer. As soon as you get that permit, it specifically says this is meant for long-term living use, year-long leases. That's part of the permit process. So they can whine all they want, but if they want this on their property, then that's the way that the permits need to work out.
Yeah.
People like to whine. What question we got there next? Clifton Charles says, question, I found a multifamily home that is priced high, but rents are priced low for the area. Should I offer 20% lower than asking because it's been on the market for a year in hedging against a downturn? What do you do with every offer? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You offer low, and if they take it, you win. If they reject it, you make another offer. If they counter, then you know where their headspace is at. What do you say?
I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
The worst thing they can do is say no.
I put everything on paper. Like, let's type it up. I mean, what's the worst they can say is no. Yeah, I would. I mean, and multifamily dwellings are fantastic for renting. So yeah, I think, yeah, just go in low and see what they say and tell them, like, look, dude, you've had this for sale for over a year. You want to get this off your hands, or you're just playing the market. Show them what they're working with. Show them what you're working with. James says, I know someone is considering living in an RV. What kind of property, if any, do you think he should buy for in between trips, etc.? What's your opinion, Will?
What I guess I don't understand in between trips, like where he's going back to or where he's living in the. Okay, I get it. There again, it depends on where you're going to be living. What you want to spend on something. If you can rent it out while you're gone, how you can rent it out while you're gone. I mean, there's 100 different possibilities with that question.
Well, if it was me and I was trying to save as much money as possible, and you wanted something easily rent out, and that's easily something that you can fix up, I would put a small manufactured home on a piece of land that, first of all, they rent out super easily. If there's anything goes wrong with them, they're super inexpensive to fix. And that would be that's what I would say. But if you live in a vacation area, I would say buy a condo where you have like an Airbnb situation or a timeshare type situation. So if you go back into town, you can go into that your timeshare that you own. So here we go. Da, da, da. There we go. Eddie's got another question for us. Here it is. Ryan says, don't buyers finally pay all costs? This is what EXP is pitching with their new and different model where they advertise without the MLS and don't pay buyer agent fees that saves the buyer money. I work for EXP. So I don't know what you're talking about. This is news to me. And in the state of Louisiana, when the closing documents come out, the money that's paid to the brokers on the buyer side and the seller side are paid out by the seller. And of course, that those fees can always be negotiated. There's not set in stone. Like some agents will charge a total of 6%. Some agents charge a total of 5%. Some of them charge a total of 5.5%. I mean, it's always negotiable, but I've never heard this. Do you know what this is, Will?
No, I do not work for EXP, but I don't. In our area, and every MLS has its own rules, but that would be illegal. You can't advertise if you're an agent off of MLS.
Right.
So I'm not. Yeah, that would surprise me. It can't be a thing here, but maybe in some states it can, but not here.
Yeah. We can't do that here at all. You can't do that.
What are you EXP people doing, Kristina?
No, I've seen people like do this thing where they'll say, I will list your home at like a 1% fee because they know that it will sell fast. So they're willing to take the big deduction in a fee because they know they're only gonna have it on the market for a few minutes. They're gonna get it off the market because they're gonna get an offer right away. And they're just pretty much, they have a whole team that's babysitting the whole entire deal. So they're willing to do it at a 1%. And I've seen some brokerages, I've never seen our brokerage, but some brokerages charge a fee just to put it on the MLS, where basically they're just putting in the information in your home, but they do not do any kind of negotiations or anything else. They just have it in the MLS so other real estate agents can look at it. But I've never seen this model that this commenter was referring to. Question: what do you think will happen to mortgage rates once the Federal Reserve buys more than $40 billion in MBS securities they are currently buying a month? This has been going on. This has been going on since the last crash. What's your opinion, Will?
I agree. I think people get, the headlines, and it's all about fear mongering, and I don't think, I'm not concerned about the market. I think in our area it's going to be great. Mortgage rates are going to fluctuate. I don't think they're going to skyrocket anytime soon, but again, who saw last year coming?
Well, I will say this: if the mortgage rates go up, yes, home prices will go down. That's inevitable. Whenever mortgage rates are extremely low, prices go up. And whenever mortgage rates are really high, prices go down. But the Fed is always buying back mortgage-backed securities. They've been doing it for eons. They've been doing it since the last crash. They still have some of them sitting on the books. I mean, that's what they do. They always do that. And then they slowly trickle it back into the market again. Will is very handsome. Aw, that's nice, Carly. Will, you're so... Oh, look, Will's turning red.
I am. I'm going to have to show my wife the replay of this because she's not going to believe me.
Yeah, somebody said it. Carly did. All right. Do we have any more questions, Eddie, that you want to throw up on the screen there? Whenever I say throw up, I always think that's terrible. If you guys haven't yet and you were thinking about it, at the top of the chat there is a link to my friend Owen Hasmith, and is also known as Owen Video here on YouTube. He has stage 4 cancer and is seeking alternative therapies in order for his cancer. And of course, his insurance doesn't cover it. So he's asking for donations, and we're doing a fundraiser for him. So if you have a little extra money, if you wouldn't mind, please donate to my friend right here and his family. You know, he's a young guy with young kids, and everybody just loves Owen. He's such a nice person. So just go ahead and just donate if you can. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Eddie, is there questions? I guess there's no more questions. Well, Will, I want to say with that, since we've already embarrassed you, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday. If anybody has any questions after this live stream is over, please put them in the chat for Will and I. And Will, you will check throughout the week and answer any questions anybody might have about the Montana housing market.
I certainly will.
All right. If anybody needs to get a hold of you, Will, how can they do that?
Well, I have my own channel called Living in Montana, and it'd be great if you guys subscribed to that and checked it out. And all of my information is on there. You can get a hold of me at teammontanalife@gmail.com, or my phone number and everything's on my channel, Living in Montana.
Living in Montana. All right, Mr. Will, thank you so much. And everybody, you have a great weekend. And if you have any questions, like I said, you just go ahead and put them in the the comment section below. Bye, everybody. Happy Sunday. We're gonna do a little dance to say goodbye. Dance, Will. You're gonna do a little dance. He's not gonna do it. He won't do it. He's not gonna do it. I don't think Eddie's gonna push the end broadcast. He's gonna just sit there and let me be embarrassed.
Oh, look at this. I need to come on more. Look at all these people.
Yeah, Rebecca knows you.